I'm older than most of you who are watching this. I've seen a lot of games. And of course, old guys like me like to talk about the golden age when things were great. So I'm going to talk about the golden age of tabletop gaming. And that age is right now. Now, that might sound odd because considering the blight of COVID, which is devastating the land, the failed Kickstarters that we've seen, and the skyrocketing shipping costs. I mean, there's companies right now who are literally leaving containers on the shore, and then won't tell that they didn't ship them. You know, they just deny it. So it's crazy stuff. Well, aren't things worse than ever? No. Here's why. I grew up in the 1960s and 70s. Our board games were trash, really. Stuff like Stratego, Clue, Risk, Monopoly, and worse. I mean, it's almost like these were designed to put kids off board games. I tried really hard to enjoy them, and I stuck with it. In 1967, I started playing Avalon Hill war games with my pals. Now, these were more intellectually stimulating, and they were the only really good games you could get as far as intellectual. So war games were it, right? So we didn't talk about board games, we talked about war games. But they were not family games, they were for geeks, and they were pretty much all 2-player only, so you couldn't play them with the crowd. Plus, it took a half an hour or longer to learn the rules for each game, so you couldn't break one out for an evening session. You had to bone up on it ahead of time. Now, in the late 1970s and the 80s, things started to improve just a little. Some actually fun games were starting to appear, and many were multiplayer. My game collection started to swell up from hardcore war games that maybe 1 in 1,000 people wanted to play, a real click thing, to a lot more variety. I could get someone else to come play with me if I had pulled out Cosmic Encounter, you know? But something was happening overseas, in the dank dungeons and the fuming laboratories of continental Europe. New games were appearing. Games that you could play in only about an hour. Games that were actually fun, fast-moving, and which had been balanced so they were fair. Games, in the course of just slightly over a decade, had been completely transformed from the terrible games of my youth to some really good games. We even had one game come out that completely transformed the hobby industry. Yeah, I know everyone has strong feelings about Magic the Gathering, but it is, after all, an actually good game. I don't play it anymore, but I don't look down on people who play it unless they won't play anything else. I mean, really. After all, Magic the Gathering is responsible for keeping countless game stores alive, and I love it for that benefit alone. Every time I walk into my local game store to buy a board game, I'm well aware that the Magic dudes facing off along the tables in the back, butt cracks visible usually, are paying to keep that place open. So thanks, guys. So, wow, games are good now, and there's a lot of them. Is that it? No, there's more. Lately, starting about 2012, 2013, crowdfunding appeared. Now, crowdfunding is far from perfect, but before it came along, if you had a board game idea, you had to push it out there paying for all the manufacturing itself, and who can afford that, or you had to sell it to one of the few board game companies. I guarantee you that I could never have created Cthulhu Wars without the Kickstarter platform. Now, it wasn't all gravy. In retrospect, we only broke even on Cthulhu Wars, partly because my two partners took away a lot of the profit when they left. Still, it did establish Petersen Games. And Petersen Games has kept producing games ever since, largely stimulated by crowdfunding. So you see, crowdfunding's really useful for a new designer. You can get into the field, you can do your game, however wacky it is. So crowdfunding has one feature that I really, really like, which is that you know ahead of time that your game sucks. What I mean is, if you're doing a game and it fails, you don't have to now publish it. If I'm doing a game the old-fashioned way, I'd have to print a couple thousand copies of the game, get them in stock, then try to sell it, and then find out no one wanted it. How terrible is that? With crowdfunding, the cost of doing a Kickstarter campaign is a lot less, and so I can know right off the bat, oh, people don't like this game idea. Now, I know some people say, well, I'm going to come back and try again. Don't do that. If the game failed in the Kickstarter the first time, it's probably going to fail the second time. Do something else. You just gotten the gift straight from heaven. You know that game idea isn't going to run. So that's a really good thing about Kickstarting. Okay, another thing we have is we have a number of online programs that let us play board games with people from distant lands, including games that haven't yet made it to physical form, like my own Hyperspace board game. You can play this on these platforms. So in the end, here's where we are. Board games are bigger, not in size, I mean that too, I guess, but look at Cthulhu Wars, but I mean bigger in number of players and more successful than ever before. Gamers are more numerous, easier to find. When I wanted to find players after moving to California in 1980, I tacked a note on the bulletin board of Games of Berkeley and found some guys. It worked, but that was Stone Age stuff. There's more variety of games now because with the success of crowdfunding and other publication methods, you're not as constrained by corporations. Let me give you an example from my own life. All my life, until 2013, with one exception, none of the games I did were my idea. Someone always told me what game I was going to do. The one exception is my space game, Hyperspace, which I had to convince the boss to do. So, and then they told me to. All those games, Doom, do Doom, they said. Do this, do Pirates Diablo. That never got published, but hey, there could have been a Pirates Diablo. All these games are told by someone else. Now, I'm not complaining about the man telling me what game to do. They owned the company, they got the money. The man treated me well, but they weren't my games. But now, running my own company with the new age, Cthulhu Wars, God's War, Planet Apocalypse, Hyperspace, these are all my own idea. And it's not thanks to a corporation or the man, it's thanks to you. So you are letting me, a fellow gaming nerd, spend my life creating games for both of us to enjoy. I look forward to whatever's ahead. I suppose things probably won't be great forever, but as far as I can tell in my own little Palantir, we should keep having good times with games until Cthulhu, finally fed up with our iniquity, rises and clears off the earth. So before then, let's get some gaming done. Also, like me with the like button, subscribe, hit the subscribe button. Sign up for notifications if you can't remember that I do it every Friday. I don't have a Patreon, but I'm a business owner. Check out the Petersen Games YouTube channel. See if you want to subscribe to it. Also, right now, check out this awesome product for sale on the petersengames.com website. Thanks.